Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim yatkripatamaham bande Paramananda Madhavam. Om. All right, for today we thought we come back to the text a bit and see how Sanskrit text is doing, and then anchor ourselves to the text again. After long discussions, deviations, kind of explorations in different fields, trying different modalities of exploring these texts, but it is it has to be anchored to the text, and we will see immediately the advantage of it, because the text is very concrete and says concrete things, and we have to explore them, yeah, and see how they suggest us to be. And so I'm projecting the text. We stopped at number 20. न प्रहृष्येत् प्रियं प्राप्य नोद्वेजत् प्राप्य च प्रियं स्थिरबुद्धिरसम्मूढः ब्रह्मविद् ब्रह्मणि स्थितः बाह्यस्पर्शेष्वसक्तात्मा विन्दत्यात्मनि यत् सुखं स ब्रह्मयोगयुक्तात्मा सुखम् अक्षयम् अश्नुते. I'm splitting on the sandhis. So napraharishyet priyam prapya. One should not be excited by getting something which is desired. Wow. Na udvijet, and one should not shrink prapya chapriyam, something which is not desired. Sthira buddhi, with steady buddhi mind, asammudhah, not bewildered, brahmavid, knowing the spirit, brahmani sthitaha, staying in the spirit. The stability of the spirit, constantly relying on the spirit, seeing the presence of the spirit in all good and bad things. And these good and bad things are relative things because they are made by nature. Nature will move this way. Nature needs both of them to manifest the divine. It cannot manifest only better and better and better. It needs to step back. It needs to draw back. It needs to bring the light into the darkness and to leave it there for a while. This is what is happening nowadays with Afghanistan, I was thinking. Such a heartbreaking story. If you see how they are jumping on that last plane, US military, they want to fly just on the outside on it, you know. Yeah, I think the people of Afghanistan have to make a stand. They have to stand for their freedom. Yes, it is very scary and it is very difficult to resist that kind of mature past. Yeah. But still, yes, what to do? We have to pay the price for the freedom. Others did this. They paid their price for that freedom. And if they are not going to do it, if the whole army, 300,000 people just, gave up without any fight, or joined the Taliban, immediately came onto their side. You see, I know a bit of Afghanistan because I've been there. I don't want to deviate there to that topic, but in 1980 I was there a soldier from Soviet Union army. I was only 19 years old that time. So I've seen how they behave. They are with you as long as you have force, but the moment comes, the darkness comes, and they are against you anytime. So they fluctuate. They didn't find their own position yet, but after 20 years of US being there, they got the taste of freedom. Now they are running from Taliban. They are not running towards Taliban. They are running away from Taliban, and this is a big achievement. I'm sure Taliban will not be able to establish its rule over a long time. The same as in Vietnam. They couldn't, communist regime couldn't sustain itself after the US been so long there. There's some kind of bug of freedom, which which is infecting others, and they will be looking for that freedom. So let's hope for that. Why I'm saying all this so long, because that relying on the spirit everywhere, seeing in bad and good things the spiritual need to establish itself. So the nature will be using the elements as they are given to her. So in Afghanistan, these are the elements. This is the material. Somewhere Sri Aurobindo has beautiful aphorism about that the God is using is applying those methods to the nature what material is given to him. If material is too rough, then the treatment will be quite rough. So it's not because he doesn't want to do it soft way. Soft way doesn't work. So there will be rougher ways and more dangerous treatment until the material is more supple and more responsive to the spirit. We know this from Sri Aurobindo's background. We know his view on these processes of nature. But to see in everything the spirit and to be established in the spirit that these events are necessary as a treatment of nature is something, it's a great achievement already. It's very difficult to see in that spiritual kind of necessity. I'm not trying to justify, I'm trying to find another position. So then, Bahya Sparsheshu Asaktatma, who is not attached to Bahya Sparsheshu, to the outer touches of nature, these events which are so heartbreaking, which are so devastating for our senses. But we are not attaching ourselves to them. We feel the pain, but we are not making that pain the major reason why it should or should not be done. Yes? We see behind there is a reason, deeper reason for why that thing took that form. Vindati Atmani Yatsukham, and finding what is in the self, the truth or the bliss. Sabrahma Yoga Yuktatma, he who is composed for Brahma Yoga. Sukham Akshayam Ashnute, he enjoys or realizes the happiness which is imperishable. He enjoys an imperishable happiness because his self is in yoga, yukta, composed by yoga with the Brahman, with the spirit. It reminds me, it goes deeper than it looks like. It looks like very general yogic or religious statement, but it goes much deeper than it is on the surface. You remember in Savitri when Savitri receives the boons from the Lord, the last boons, and I can't forget that. It is so beautiful how he tells her that he will be with her in everything, everywhere, in devastations, in pain, in troubles, in struggles, in every every movement of her life, he will be behind everything. And it doesn't mean that all those struggles will go away. No, only the divine will be behind. The spirit will be there. He will be present in it. And that will change the whole uh, attitude towards our life. It, that life becomes spiritual because it is charged with spiritual presence. So all those, turmoils and devastations and the music of ruin, as Sri Bindu says in Savitri, the soul wanted to experience the bare, how is this? The whole passage, why this creation came into this particular form, because soul wanted to experience unexpected, something which the adventure of self-discovery. And in that sense, of course, all those elements are part of it and cannot be removed. We want to get out of it and to get into the space which is safe for us. But the safety is only with the divine presence. There is no other safety, actually. So if we are in the safe space where nothing is touching us, it's not a safe space, actually. It's a kind of stagnating space to a certain extent. There is less life there. Am I carried away too much with all this?
No. And I think for me, one of the things that I'm understanding now is it's beyond a preference. It's not about not having a preference. It's about letting be what will be, as opposed to not having preference, good or bad, but really just allowing the unfolding of spirit.
Right. And finding the connection with the spirit, to be yukta with Brahma Yoga. That's the point. And what you are, that you are. What your nature is, that it is. So what can you do with that? Let it be. Just find the connection. Keep that connection and see what happens. And that would be something interesting. We want to remove everything from nature, clean it up, and then have the spiritual bare, kind of presence of the spirit. And it will kill life. It is exactly that separation of spirit from life. We do not see that we must keep with life whatever we are. We are naturally born beings. But keeping with the spirit, it changes the nature, changes the perception of what is happening around us. And even our devastations for our mind and vital, for the spiritual perception, it's an adventure. It's a totally different perception of things. The spiritual view would not see the devastation, would not feel that it is so. Our vital would feel pain, our mental would feel struggle, and so on. But for the spiritual, it would be a marvelous adventure. You have some other thoughts on this? Radhe, yeah? Nishat? Okay.
The only thought I have for tonight is going on what Teresa says about, I was doing a dharana yesterday, taking part in a meditation program, and it had us imagining the perfect place to meditate, and then giving ourselves the permission to have all of the support for meditation. And then it said something interesting. It says, and we meditating because we want to meditate. And it's become such a practice, but something so simple that I want to meditate. I want to be with the divine. I want to spend this time and share this journey. It moved me in a way. And I'm hearing echoes of that tonight. So thank you for letting me share.
Thank you for sharing. Yes, meditation is the entry, is the contact, and then life comes. What to do with life then? Should we really close our eyes on life and go inside and disappear there with the divine one-on-one in that bliss forever, having nothing to do with what is happening outside? No, outside. Keep the connection and live outside. Meditate through your life, as it were, through activities. And this is something more than just disappearing in the silence, yeah, with closed eyes. Open your eyes and see the divine in every event. See in every devastation and the ruin, in the music of ruin, see the divine. Can Sri Aurobindo says only in Indian tradition they dared to see the divine in Kali, who destroys the worlds. Yeah? They saw the bliss in that, the mother of the worlds destroying the whole universe. There is the divine there also. There is a beautiful passage in Savitri. Maybe we read it already, yes? Why the soul chose the music of ruin and the bare escape. He wanted to, the soul wanted to experience all those clashes of forces and struggle. And so all this is a great adventure for the divine and for the spirit within us. And we do not see it because we attach to it our mind, our vital, and they are paining and they're aching and they are scared and they take over and we have no courage. We don't see the presence, the deeper presence in us. So here the proposition is find the connection, keep it, whatever happens outside. Shaknoti ha eva, shaknoti haivayach sodhum praksharira vimokshanat, kama krodhodbhavam vegam sayuktach sasukhi naraha. Sounds like very simple statement, but it has a profound implications. The one who can bear before the departure from the body, that means being in the body, the power and speed of the desire and the anger, who can bear them, who can withstand them, who will not react or will not be led by them, driven by them. Sayuktah, he is composed. Sasukhi naraha, he is the happy man, who is not driven neither by desire nor by anger. It's a very practical, very profound suggestion. What to do. It's difficult to do when there is no connection with the spirit. That's why the connection with the spirit is mentioned before. Otherwise, how can you withhold that? You can imitate, you can pretend to be calm. Yes, I am calm, I am not angry. Yeah? But that is not the way how it is done. It has to be inwardly. Outwardly, you may be angry even. Your vital may be very angry and very full of preference and desire and liking and disliking. But the inwardly, the inner space is already present within you, where you identify yourself with. You identify yourself with the inner self rather than with outer turmoils of nature. You see that the part of you is entering nature and there you are partly present, but that is not the biggest part of you. You can handle it because the bigger part of this iceberg is in the spirit. And you stay there and watch what is happening on the surface. We need a protection of the spirit. Nobody can do it without the spiritual presence or some grace or mother's presence. And we we have to also to want it in our even outer nature. If our outer nature is taking over and we don't want it there, if outer nature is already tired of all those turmoils and wants to become spiritual, then there is a possibility of inner invasion into the outer spaces. That's why Mother always says you have to want it. How can you do it without wanting it? And want is this outer want, in a way. The outer being, the outer mental, vital, and physical has to like it somehow, to want it, to call for it. And then there will be a possibility of bearing before leaving the body. Today I looked at this shloka and it made so much sense to me today, more than ever before. This simple shloka, the one who can bear before leaving the body, and the velocity, it's kind of interesting. The velocity, Vega means speed, speed with power, of wrath and desire is the yogin, the happy man.
Can I say something, Vladimir?
Please, please.
When I read the Sanskrit there, in this verse, it says kama krodho bhadvam.
Udbhavam. Udbhava is rising. It's just Sandhi. Kama krodha udbhavam vegam. So the speed, the velocity of rising of kama and krodha. Who can sword whom bear?
Oh, okay.
Oh, good. You are into Sanskrit studies. Lovely. Yeah, shall we proceed with some ideas, thoughts? No? Yeah. Shall I go forward? Okay. Yontach sukhach antararamach tathantar jyotir eva yaha sayogi brahma nirvanam brahma bhuto dhigachati. Yontach sukhach, who has inside happiness. Antararamach, who is also kind of resting or rejoicing within. Antarjyotirevayaha, and who has inner light, light within. Sayogi, he is yogi. Brahma nirvanam, Brahma bhutogi dhigachati. He reaches Brahma nirvanam, the nirvana of the spirit, becoming himself Brahman. Reaches self-extinction extinction in Brahman, becomes the Brahman and reaches that. So in some way to come to nirvana, to the silent Brahman, we have to become silent Brahman without ourselves. And that is actually a confirmation from we can find this confirmation in Sri Aurobindo, where he says how he reached Brahma Nirvana. Yes, that silent Brahman. He had to make his mind totally calm and silent, silencing the mind, removing all the thoughts, and not only removing but holding on to that silent space for quite some time before that silence could descend. Otherwise, that silence would never descend. There will be too much motion on the surface, too much engagement. And that's why these words, Brahma Bhuta, having become Brahma, Brahma Nirvana Madhigachati, he reaches or realizes the silence of Brahman. Nirvana we can translate as silence, no sound, no ripples, As Vivekananda beautifully describes nirvana, if you can imagine the ocean on the surface of which there is no one turbid wave. It's a totally calm ocean. That is the sense of nirvana. Labhanti Brahma Nirvanam Rishayach Kshina Kalmashach Chinna Dvaidha Yatatmanach Sarva Bhuta Hite Rataha. Rishis, Rishayach, sages, Labhante, get or obtain. Sri Aurobindo translates win, Brahma Nirvanam. They obtain this silence of Brahman, Kshina Kalmashah, whose Kalmasha, whose stains of sin, Akshina, effaced, erased, thinned, become thin, like they were thick and they became thin, 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 so you could see through. They are no more the obstacle. They are exhausted. They do not have the value, the volume anymore. They became weak, weakened. Even if they are there, they cannot influence you. Even if on the surface there's something going on in nature, they cannot really stop that silence from within. Once Nirod Baran came to Sri Aurobindo and told him, you see, sometimes I think that I am not a sadhak at all, but the sum or the collection of all the desires, just a bunch of the desires and have nothing to do with sadhana. And Sri Aurobindo tells him, but you are not always like this. And it is so helpful to know. So there are moments when these turmoils, these desires are rising, but they are not always rising. They are not always clogging our sense of the spiritual presence. Once in a while, there are storms, yes, there are some kind of events from nature. Nature is doing it on the surface constantly, back and forth, liking, disliking. That's how nature works. So, but even sometimes it takes us in and we are taken, as it were, for a while, but not for all the time. And that's what he tells him. So don't worry about that. You are not always like this. It was really very soothing for me because I was always kind of judging myself. Whenever this turmoil took place, I thought, I am not worthy of the yoga. I am so, and now I know that on the surface it will go on. It will not disappear. So they get to this Brahma Nirvanam, Chinna Dvaidha, who cut the duality, who are not split anymore, they are one. This is another very profound term to not to be dualized. Sri Aurobindo translates as effaced and the note of doubt, that's how he translates interestingly, is cut asunder. Chinna, cut, dvaida, duality, the split. The split is cut away. So the split of us being either this or that, being either spiritual or material. Oh, I'm now material, but I have to be spiritual. I'm judging myself constantly. There is an ongoing dialogue between the two, between my spiritual being and my natural being. And that cut is actually the problem for spiritual life. That has to be removed. I have to view nature as as the means by which she is invoking more and more spirit, and the events on the side of nature will continue. Only I have to be one. I have to look at her from the spirit's point of view, as an enterprise of the spirit, accept her as the manifesting force of the spirit with all her means, nothing else. That singularity concept of Charles, that oneness of spirit and nature, heaven and earth equal and one, as Sri Aurobindo says. Masters of their selves, yatatmanach, whose selves are mastered, restrained, in control, who are in control of themselves. Another profound term, how to be in control of oneself. There is only one way, that is the spirit. You cannot be in control of yourself without it. There is no way. You cannot control nature by the force of nature. Sarva bhuta hite rataha. So they who are happy in the hitam, in the auspiciousness of every being, to be happy in the happiness of every being. When somebody is happy, you are happy. You don't know why. You see this happy face of the puppy, or you see the happy face of the elephant baby, and some wave of happiness is rising in you. Or kittens smiling. Oh, this is the quality which we all have, and that has to invade the nature and settle within the nature. That bliss of the spirit. Yes, so let us share your thoughts, because we can stop here for a second. 25, from 20 to 25, 5 shlokas. If you have some thoughts on these matters, please share.
So more so than the feelings of despair, like when you were talking about Afghanistan and reading the news and hearing the stories. I mean, of course, I have a despair that feels like it enters my being. And then on the other side of that, of course, I know that this is just a manifestation of what needs to occur. So I can intellectualize that, but I don't necessarily feel that. What I feel is concern and worry and despair. So then finding that true nature of happiness and allowing at the same time as not discounting that feeling of despair and concern.
It will be there and should be there, despair and feeling, kind of pain of others. I feel very strongly, truly speaking, I cannot deny that heartbreaking feeling when you see what is happening there, when people tasted the democracy or some kind of shadow of freedom, and now back to that medieval tyranny of religion. Horrible in every way. Yes, we feel very much identified with this, and still let us see what is next, why it is so. What's that transition? We are in the transition. Yes, Marta, you want to say something?
Yes, I was just wanting to say that it's natural for us to be in sympathy with others. It's part of our sense of oneness, our real underlying oneness with everyone else on the planet. And it's natural for us to feel sympathy and to grieve for these events. They are very, very upsetting. Yet then again, as Teresa was saying, I think what it takes is to step back, and you do need to intellectualize about it to a point, to process it mentally, because unless you get some distance from your emotions about it, you're not able to see in some manner how it might serve the ultimate purpose. We're too emotionally swept up in identifying with the events on the ground. But then if we get some sense of detachment and take a wider view, we might see that this is something that's just a necessary phase, painful though it is, before some progressive phase comes again. And I think faith and trust has to be part of the equation, because we know that ultimately what the divine wills will happen. And we know that we can't, at least we know intellectually, that we can't really understand all the dimensions. When you read The Mother, for example, Sri Aurobindo's little book on the mother, he explains that her processes are so complex, so infinite, so subtle, so varied, that multiform, that we cannot begin to conceive in our human mentality what's happening. And I think ultimately faith and trust really has to be part of it.
Yeah, and look at Russia. Russia is bothering me more than Afghanistan. What is happening there? There's all these, all the lies, all the falsehood rising to the surface to the extent that that is unbelievable what is going on. Unbelievable what people can say, how they can say, what energy what consciousness they project. It's much worse than ever before, and then worse than Second World War. What hatred they project. And still, what is this going on? If we just look from the point of view of the spirit, some kind of cleansing of all of that which was under carpet for so many millennia, which was piled up for centuries. Now it is all released and coming to the surface. So we see that now, and we don't want it. We definitely don't want it. And this is a good news. We see what we are dealing with. That is the cleansing. Yeah, we will have to do it again and again until it is done, unfortunately for us. It's not only the happy, the happy days are waiting for us. Look what Mother and Sri Aurobindo went through. It's not an easy path. And still, the divine will always be with us if we choose to go this path. It's not easy for mental and vital being, but for the inner central being, there is nothing better. As Mother says, if you will, I will give the last drop of my blood to you without any regret, with total happiness. This is the fundamental connection. Yeah.
I'll say something, and this is probably going to be controversial, but it certainly came to mind as I was listening to Teresa and Martha and you. And they're this vital. It can really get the best of you, right? So it can get caught up. It can find things to get caught up. It wants to be entertained. It wants to fear. It wants to worry. It's it just reminds me of the COVID days where every other thing on the news or in the newspaper or on the internet was how many people have died, how many people are in the hospital. And the vital just lives on stuff like that. It thrives on things like this, and so it's really it's not even a matter of is there compassion or pity. It's, as I see it, is that it's getting some sort of warped thrill out of this, and that's why this standing back helps. And as Martha said, bringing in the intellect, the mental, to help kind of separate that, and having not pity and not even really empathy, but compassion, right? Compassion, Maheshwari, who is all knowing, all wisdom. She is the goddess, the Shakti of compassion, because she knows all. She knows what's going on, why it's going on, right? And so it's not a matter of trying to step in and change things, but holding. I think often of like holding space for people, right? To go through what they have to do, or holding space for yourself on changes that have to happen. So I just think that this vital is just so tricky, and the news and everything plays to it, right? It tries to grab you and suck you in. And then before you know it, the day's over, and all you've done is kind of got caught up in these things. So it really takes diligence and awareness, and it's hard not to get caught up. But anyways, that was just what came across as I was listening to people speak.
Vladimir?
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Vladimir,
Yeah. Yes, Lakshman.
is it reasonable to view this as a result of the descent of the supramental consciousness? The Asuric forces see this as their last stand, last battle, and they're sort of fighting a guerrilla warfare, from scorching the earth, in parts of California and West, to creating, as Radha is saying, this vital fear of all kinds, that it's looking at it from that point of view, see that as Mother has shown there many times, the victory is certain. It's our attempt to sort of stand back and watch it unfold. And the challenge is not to get our vital involved, as Radha says, it becomes the big challenge. We see when you see what could happen to the young girls and women in Afghanistan, with the return of Taliban, it's, sincerely wish that they don't face the same thing they faced 20 years ago, But these thoughts keep coming in, as previous speakers have said, I don't know what is the best way to, how you force yourself to step back, and observe and not react. It's a challenge.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree with you totally. I have the same view that the pressure of the supramental is pressing down so much that everything from below is rising to the surface. And because it wants to meet the light which is actually transforming it. That's why it is rising to the surface, because it wants to be transformed, nothing else. It doesn't know it. It wants to fight the light, yeah, in its own view. But in the deeper divine sense, it wants transformation and release. It wants to be free from its own curse, as it were. It wants to find its divine purpose finally, and harmony with the world. So it is coming up, yes. And we have all these forms in Russia, Afghanistan. Afghanistan is just a symptom of some of this, of the return of the old system back, but it will not survive. It will not dominate. It's another world. It came too late. You see, it will have a very short time. You will see how things will evolve. It will be a very interesting now, rapid evolution. Yeah. People who are running away from their own people, that's the beginning or the end, the beginning of the end of that age. Before they were welcoming them back. Now they want to run. So it will not survive that regime or that religion in that form, in fanatic form of medieval age. I don't think so. And yes, Radha is totally right. The thriving of the vital wants and excitement and so on. There is something about our nature, how it is built in an interesting way, because vital is in our torso. If you look at our body, so the head is more like the mind, yes, mental, so to say. So we have also in the mental, we have triple mental. We have eyes, forehead, we have nose, breathing, vital. We have tongue, the speech, the center of speech, center of the vitality, dynamic center, and the mental center, self of mind, the Sahasrara chakra, all in the head from the neck onwards. And then we have the torso, and within the torso, all three major centers of the vital. We have the higher vital, that is in the heart center, yes, Anahata chakra. We have the Manipura, which is dynamic center of the vital, the navel center. That navel which connects us to our mother womb, from which we came into being, that navel from where that link to the subtle vital body is made, yeah, that which should not be cut before. So if it is cut, we are dead. And the lower, what we call Svadhisthana chakra, that Dantian, what they call in China, yeah, which connects all the energies in the body, the vital energies. 72,000 nadis are flowing through that center. Now, these three, one is emotional because it is painted with the mental, other is more dynamic, vital feelings, all those impulses of hate, ego, assertion, fear, jealousy, all that from the navel center. Typical rough energies of the vital, and the lower physical vital sensations in the body, pain, pleasure, which connects to a body electrical, what Charles was dealing with. That is that prana within the body. Now, why I'm saying about this prana so long, because the Anahata chakra behind it, yeah, within it, deeper, there is the psychic center. And that is something interesting, because that psychic center has a direct influence, immediate influence on the vital, more than on anything else. And many times we are mixing the psychic presence with the vital presence, psychic compassion with the vital compassion. And all the movements which are true in the vital, some way or another, were influenced by the psychic presence or spiritual transformation. There was something in them which vital already acquired, new quality, new presence, new light, new understanding. And that is becoming embodied more and more, that compassion, a mother's love, those instincts, yes, where of the herds towards their own offspring, or how the elephants were meeting the young elephant, I can't forget, on their Facebook. It was so beautiful. They protected, they embraced, they were holding him within their own, so this is something already conquered by nature, conquered over a long period of time. That psychic influence which is present in nature entered into the vital, created that motherly love, that sacrificial love, giving oneself to one's own child. So that is done, but there is much more to be done. The whole world is to become like this. We have to conquer many more energies, and the psychic has its role to play. And many times we are mixing these two. We do not know where it is coming from. We feel very emotional, and we are not distinguishing whether it is psychic presence, or maybe it is something of the vital which is already transformed by the psychic. The same with the mind. Mind is also transformed by the psychic presence. Compassionate mind which is looking for better solution for all. And most probably there is no better solution than that of what happened in Afghanistan. When, you know, when US Army came there 20 years back, everybody was saying that they made big mistake. It was very bad for everyone. They were all the time writing about this, speaking about this, that it was wrong solution, that it was a bad decision. It's bad for Afghan people. Now, when they leave, it's again bad. So whatever you do, you come or you go, it's bad for them. Because there's something wrong which they have to solve there. It's bad there. It was bad and it will be bad until they resolve it. So you cannot make it for others. They have to do it for themselves. The same with Russians. They cannot, or Ukrainians who want help of US and so on and so forth. Yes, there has to be solidarity, support of ideas, but they have to win their own freedom. There is no other way. I cannot become free by somebody else's force. Yes.
Vladimir, something's come up with this. When you're talking about the mother and the motherly love. In the most transcendental, beautiful moments of spirit that I've had, there comes upon me a sense of, I've been discovered. Something knows me. I'm known. Something understands me. I'm being held. And then kind of a wonder, why me? Why this? But that feeling of being known is in a spiritual way. Maybe that's what's playing out on all of this, but that came up for me just now. I'm not sure why. It's very beautiful feeling.
It's wonderful. This is a gratitude towards feeling the divine presence. Now you have to start letting it work upon you and upon your nature, and you have to pay attention not to misuse it, abuse it, which we usually many times do. Unknowingly, of course, out of ignorance, but still. Once it is there, it has to get more and more space in you, in your mind, in your feelings. You have to dedicate totally yourself only to that growth of that spirit within you through your activities, thoughts, feelings, relations. I think this is a wonderful world we could live. We are given such a knowledge, you know, such a knowledge. Where would you find this knowledge? Look how people suffer in the world. They have no idea where to go, where to find refuge, in what religions. Religions offer them some solution, salvation, somewhere beyond you. You kill here many people and you will be beyond free. It's all such a human thing, full of power trips. And yeah, it's beautiful what you said, to be known, to feel, to see that you are, as Robert said, accepted. You are accepted. You were never accepted by nobody around you. And suddenly someone accepts you as you are, knowing you deeply into the deepest nature. Love, that real, true love, which was never possible because it's always mixed with nature. Yeah. Yes, Siegfried, you are, I see you.
Hello, good night, everyone.
Good night.
I think to be a human being is an opportunity to experience the truth, your own truth, your unique truth. And always when we receive information about situations far away, like in Afghanistan or COVID disease and all of these things. I think we are experiencing a manipulation of information, manipulation of truth. If we try to experience our truth through the news, I think we are in an illusory experience of human being. For example, I think what is happening now in Afghanistan is something it's a provocation, it's a distraction, if you want to say. It's not a process of evolution of the human beings there, or they are searching the truth or not the truth. No. If you want to experience the truth there, you have to be there. And if you want to experience the truth in the COVID disease, you have to experience COVID disease. I'm now experience the COVID disease. I'm in the day 10th, and I was experience fever and all the process with my family. We have all together the same disease, and we make the antigens test to know if we are positive or not. We are positive. And we have some colleagues, they catch the same flu through us, and they was vaccinated. And then you can experience what is true in all of this process if you are open to experience directly in you. Not in the news, not in the TV, not from the politicians. No, if you want to experience what is this, and if you can go with that, you only have to be open and experience in you. And it's very easy. If you have to learn something from that experience, you can learn a lot. And it's your own wisdom. And then from this position, then you can understand what is happening in all around you, because you have your truth and you have your own perspective of that.
Yeah, you have to, thank you. You have to believe, as Shubindu says, you have to believe in three things. First, you have to believe in yourself. This is the first. Second, you believe in God, and then you believe in Kali, in the Divine Mother. So it's quite interesting that he put three things, yeah? And the first is you believe in yourself. Because how can you believe in the divine at all if you don't believe yourself even? It's just impossible. So there you start your experience, yes. And there is a lot of manipulation, Siegfried, I agree with you. Many people, many forces try to use this information and bend it towards their own ends. And they really do it very actively. I agree with you. In the news you can see it everywhere. But there is, at the same time, something is going on. In spite of them trying to use that. And our identity with the whole globe is growing because it's a new stage. And it's not only that I am myself somewhere away from everyone. I am everyone. And they are part of me. And I am part of them. And this new consciousness is emerging slowly. It's not yet there. It's far from being there. We need first elements to believe in themselves, to discover something deeper in themselves. And then, step by step, it will, this human unity, the ideal of the human unity is the most misunderstood ideal, I think. We do not yet see what it means, really. We spoke about it a bit before. And I wish you a total recovery and send you the best. I think all of us send you the best love and peace and light and force for speedy recovery, and it will happen.
Yeah, and I can reflect to you as a mirror. Thank you.
You know, I just too wanted to comment, Siegfried, on what you said. So if I understood you right, what you're saying, which sounds true mentally and feels true emotionally, is that real truth is only can only be through experiential truth. That you could read something and you could say, yeah, mentally that kind of sounds right, or you could see someone suffering and your heart kind of goes out and says, gee whiz, you know, I empathize, I can see what the situation is. Or like COVID, as you're saying, you could hear the news and think you understand what's really going on, but truth is experiential. It's not mental and it's not vital. It can be if the mental and the vital are transformed in the physical, but for the most part, the real truth has to be, and I'm just reiterating because I'm trying to process what you're saying and all its implications, because there's a lot of implications to that really the only truth that you can ever experience, that you can ever know, is that which you experience. But I guess I would also say that to the extent that you are truly connected to yourself, that you know your own truth and you know all truth, right? Because you are all. So at the end of the day, it kind of comes back to that knowing your truth. And through that truth, it may sound simplistic, but it seems to me that you could know all truth through that. So I don't know if I distorted what you were trying to say or not, Siegfried. I was just trying to process it because I sensed there was something very very important there that you were sharing.
So reflecting on what you've both said, this sounds very much to me like Sri Aurobindo's conception of knowledge by identity, that when you are within something, experiencing it, then you know it. For example, he gives an example of how we know knowledge by identity, how we experience knowledge by identity in the surface mind. He says, if we're swept up by an emotion, if we're feeling anger, we are that anger. We identify with it, so we know that anger. If we are experiencing love, any strong emotion, we are that. So we embody that and we know that in that way.
Yeah, experiences are on every level. They are experience in the body, experience in the vital, in the mental. Mental is also experience. It's a specific experience of knowing by the mind, knowing through the dogmas, through the words, through things, through knowledge, through philosophies, through previous experiences and memories. And all this knowledge is, of course, secondary. It's not a primary knowledge. But it is something which we build on over time to use it as a tool. It's like a tool box, yeah, it's like an instrument, chisel and the hammer. But then it has to do some work. And the work can be done clumsily, wrongly, imperfectly, or perfectly. Depends how we use the instruments. To blame the instruments that they don't give us the perfection in work, I don't think it will do, but they are needed still. We are using these words, and even so, in a way, in the view of integral yoga, I think we need all the elements in their right usage. And by the way, whatever happens to us, experiences or what is experience? You know, Sri Aurobindo, for example, speaks about his life to those biographers who tried to describe his life. He says, my life was never on the surface. So what can you speak about me? So whatever he lived on the surface, he married Mrinalini Devi, he wrote letters to her, to his father, all that. Is it really his life? Yes, it is. But his life, true life, what he considers his life, was never there. So what can we say about this? Where is that real thing? When I look at my life, everything outside, whatever happened, it's unbelievable. I look at my life, I lived several lives, really several lives, which are not even connected. You know, it's like several embodiments, and I can't say that it is it, that it was my life. And all those pains and all those struggles and all those, I think somewhere else something central is being formulated, or which is my life, or what I am here for, something invisible, something intangible, which is trying to manifest itself through all of this, what nature does. And whatever nature does, it does. So let her do things. Bring it more, bring it on. Let's see what you have in your resources. And she brings. There's much to bring, much pain, much suffering, much joy, much this and that. Yes.
Yes, it's just is this the courage to be open to the present moment. What brings the now is welcome. This is life. This is existence.
Absolutely. I agree totally. And it is not an easy way of facing the truth, you know, facing the truth of life. As Jesus said to Pontius Pilate when he asked him, "Why did you come?" You remember? Before he was crucified, Jesus, he asked him two questions. One, they say you are Messiah. And Jesus said, "Yes, I am." And the second question, "Why did you come?" What a question. What could he answer to such a question? And he answered, to face the truth to the end. Not to deviate, whatever comes. This is the courage. Well, we have to learn from, because I am coward in comparison to this. I would run and hide many times somewhere in the cupboard. I would get vaccinated. I would get my tablets are here waiting for me, a little cold. I'm immediately getting something, some vitamin C and this and that. So, well, it's also needed to keep up with nature, yes, because nature needs some care, and it's not necessarily cowardness, but
it could be considered courageous to get the vaccine because so little is known about it. And yet there we go. So you could look either way at getting vaccinated. We were courageous. We were the early ones.
Yeah,
we sacrificed ourselves for humanity to see what would happen. So take it both ways.
Lovely. I agree with you. Let's put a little kind of check for ourselves also, that we are not totally. Great. Wonderful, wonderful discussions. Thank you for your points of view and thoughts. And Kimberly, would you have something to add to this?
Well, I'm actually just sitting here with feeling like what's in my body, and tonight's conversation actually, it's kind of painful to me. However, I wanted to bring something up that was really nice, and that was over the weekend, the program that you had for the, the 150th year of Sri Aurobindo's birthday. And I wanted to thank Martha and Robert for what they shared, for what you shared on as part of that program. It was so beautiful, and it's really a chance to know you more deeply. And what William brought up earlier about being witnessed is something I felt like I heard you say, like that essence came through in your recording. And then it was so inspirational, all of the other featured guests, because they are doing something, right? They're doing things related to what they attribute to inspiration by their finding of Sri Aurobindo, and doing the most beautiful things, and talking about how we are one family in the divine, and things like that, which I didn't sense there was any boundary or barrier to religion or country or anything like that. And who is it? Aurelio?
Aurelio.
Yeah. And he talked about, there's so many people talking about evolution of consciousness, of ecosystems, so many, all over the world in different groups. And he was talking about the epic emergence of a new vision emerging. So it's really easy to kind of attach to that. And then when we see your whole night here talking about Afghanistan, I mean, knowing the history, that all feels really old. It doesn't feel like anything new emerging, right? And I'm sure there are people there who feel everyone's got spirit, right? So to discount, I'm not saying anything was discounted here, but I don't know. Those are just things I think about. So thank you.
Thank you for soothing us, and for your comments on Robert and Martha's interview, because it was wonderful. Yes, it was very moving. I just took few clips from there because longer time is not permitting, so kind of collecting the essential, quintessential presentations.
They're so beautiful, and I'm going to share it with some friends. Absolutely beautiful, and the regeneration of the soil and the land. Where is that, in Greece?
In Croatia.
Croatia. And I mean, I just read a story. It's same thing in Spain. Where vineyards are now going back to not using plows, and so it's just everyone working together. And I just find what's happening in Afghanistan to be a complete failure of any policy. And we talked last week about needing the right leaders in place, and I think we still do. So that's all.
Yeah.
I'm kind of an activist, I have to tell you.
Right. Yeah, one can see that. Yeah. Great. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. And it's a big failure. Russia, Afghanistan, many failures on the way. Yes.
Oh, and the biggest thing of all is just love for Siegfried and his family. Siegfried, I love as a brother. So this is also a surprise. So, yeah.
Yes. Great. So let's close with mantra and supporting all, and Siegfried and his family to recover fast, and to get those antibodies fast and strong, and they would sustain him better than any vaccination. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So namaste and see you then next time.
Namaste. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.